Bola Sokunbi, the woman, the myth, the legend, my girl, is a certified financial educator, finance expert, speaker, and 6X best-selling author, including her latest book, Clever Girl Millionaire. She is the founder and CEO of Clever Girl Finance, one of the largest personal finance education platforms for women in the U.S., and recipient of the 2021 Financial Education Instructor of the Year Award from the National Council of Financial Educators. Clever Girl Finance has earned the Distinguished Personal Finance Content distinction from the National Financial Educators Council, affirming its commitment and competency in providing high quality financial education that aligns with industry best practices and research based education principles. Bola and Clever Girl Finance have been featured by several media outlets, including Time.com, Money Magazine, CNBC, Forbes, Fast Company, Essence, Black Enterprise, Cheddar TV, ABC News, Good Morning America, the BBC, Fox News, and the Chicago Tribune, as well as on several finance websites and podcasts. What's up, my financially intentional people? So I've been so looking forward to this because I get to have like my favorite person in the world on the podcast, Bola Sokunbi, who has been my role model from day one and early supporter of Financially Intentional. If it wasn't for her, there would be no Financially Intentional, really.
You are too kind, Nasima.
It's the truth. It's the truth. But I have really been looking forward to this interview because it's really a full circle moment for me. All those years when I first started from in 2016, I don't know. You're one of the first people to reach out to me like, hey, like you have an interesting story. Let's talk about it. And interviewed me before I even knew that I had a thing, like that this was a thing. I started Financially Intentional just to share with my good girlfriends, like the things that I was learning along my journey. And then from there, it has expanded into more than I could have ever imagined, and partly due to you, Bola. So I appreciate you. But we are not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about all of the wonderful accomplishments that you have made and contributed to the personal finance space, having one of the largest personal finance platforms, the most recognized personal finance platforms. I just want to go back to the beginning, if you can even think that far back, because you have gone through so much along this journey. But first of all, thank you for being here. And tell me like how you got started on this path of creating this platform.
So before I answer that question, I just have to say that, Nasima, you have poured into me as much, even more than I have ever done for you. So I am grateful. We are sisters. We are forever friends. And I'm listening to you talk about all the things I have done for you. But girl, you've done so much for me and you don't even realize. So thank you.
Aww.
And thank you for having me here. There's no tears on this. Listen, there's no crying. You know how you don't talk to somebody all the time, but when you connect, it's like nothing has ever changed. Mm-hmm. And that's just how I feel about you. So I'm here for you forever, ever, no matter what. But okay, back to this podcast. And no emotions. We're going to be serious. Okay. So how did I get started? Personal interest, really. I wanted to... When I first started Clever Girl Finance, I didn't know what I was starting. Let me just be really honest. I went into a bookstore. I remember thinking back to like my early days. I went into a bookstore and I had I was compelled to find a book on personal finance for women. This was before I had the idea for Clever Girl Finance. This was before I knew much about money. And walking into that bookstore, the only books I could find were Susie Orman, Wills and Trusts, and David Bach, Smart Women Get Rich, something like that. I forgot the title. Well, that was one of my favorite books, Smart Women Get Rich, something like that. And I remember, I'm going to buy this book, but this is a book written by a white guy for women. It was a fantastic book. I read it from cover to cover. I read it on the subway. I read it to shreds, bought it again. But I'm like, why is there nothing for women by women or by women that look like us? So fast forward several years, I get to the point where, okay, I'm doing better with my money. My parents can't answer all my questions as first generation immigrants, but I want to do something that matters. I don't want to just be a number at my job. And so I start talking about my journey to saving and investing with my friends. And I'm like, wait a minute, I could turn this into something where other women come and share. I interviewed them. They share about their journeys, their stories. I talk about my mom and how she really inspired me around money, because she got married at 19 with only her high school diploma. And after becoming a mom to four and having to be the breadwinner of our family, she but basically had to hold our family on her own while my dad was going through some situations, and just having that space to share that. So that's where I started Clever Girl Finance. And it was really an idea that came to me in the shower. Let me create something that's relatable. I don't see a lot of that. I haven't seen anything like that for women who look like me. And within those few months, what led us to connecting, because I saw your story of paying off $1 million, and then I'm like, oh my God, I have to interview this woman.
Wait, it was way before that though. It was like when I was just getting started. It
Yes,
was
you were
like,
on the journey.
yes.
So we talked when you were on the journey and then when you paid it off. And I'm like, I got to share this story because this is incredible. And people think this is something that is unattainable. But this woman, Nasima, is doing it. And we became fast friends from there. So that was, in a nutshell, how Clever Girl Finance started. I wanted to do something that was meaningful. I wanted to do something that had impact. I wanted to be more than just a number at work. And I wanted to be able to share my experiences and my journey with money.
Yeah, I remember just listening back to your stories and how you talked about money. And I just remember being like, there has never been anyone that was relatable to me, like similar age. Our backgrounds are different, but still in the same space, money wise. And the way you were able to talk about money was a way that I could finally digest the concepts. Because again, I was still early on my journey. I was just focusing on paying off debt because I just was tackling one thing at a time. But I was like heavily listening to the things you were doing and talking about investing. And you were starting to talk about setting your kids up and like, how do you talk about money and relationships and things like that. I remember like you talking about like having the security, like women need to have that security of having their own money and relationships and all of those kind of things that I had never heard anybody talk about. And it was like, man, like we need more of this in the space. And just because you did it, I knew it was possible for me. But also a lot of the things, like, first of all, again, I never started this to be a business. Like I never thought I was business minded or like even had the space to create a platform or like that anybody would even be like really interested in what I'm doing outside of my friend group. And when I saw how you expanded, it opened up a world of possibility to me that I didn't even know existed. I didn't know how to invest before I started this platform. I didn't know how to intentionally look at certain financial aspects and think about it. It was a lot of things. Like I think when you're at this point, you take for granted like how much are new when you first started. And I think it goes to show that everybody thinks that they have to know everything and get everything right to be able to get better with their money or to build wealth. And if anything, let me be a testament to you to say that you just have to go and get started and look for mentors and people that you aspire to along the way, but learn in doing and everything. And so all that to say, thank you for being that trailblazer for me and for lighting that path and for showing me what's possible.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to be that person for you. And again, you are the one who did the work. You're the one who put in the effort and built your business, built your platform, paid off the debt, started investing, built your net worth. You did all that, right? You did. Maybe I shone the light on the path, but you put in the work, right? You took the steps. So it's also you.
Yeah, but also without knowing that it's possible. And of course, I've been a first in many things. And I'm not saying that to downplay what I've done, but it's exponentially easier when you can see yourself in somebody else and see the steps that they've taken. And also just to be able to have you as my circle of influence.
Yeah.
Change the game. And one of the things that I tell people, like when they first get started, is they think it's all about the budget. It's all about learning how to invest. And I said, no, the number one thing is changing your circle of influence, changing the narrative of who you get information from and what they're actually doing. Like, I love aesthetic Instagram and all of those kind of things, but it was like really getting those messages we get all these messages about consumerism and all this kind of stuff, spend on this, do this, and live this rich life, and all this things that can attribute to lifestyle inflation and all these kind of things. But rarely do we get messages about what it means to truly be a millionaire in your 30s and 40s, and how to get there, and what that looks like, and how it doesn't have to be complicated. And no, you don't need a complicated wealth advisor, and you don't have to make $1 million in order to get there. It's really about using these spaces in order to curate that circle of influence. But then also, for me, being able to actually be in real life friends with people like you makes a world of difference too.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm a firm believer that it's easier to want to pursue something. It's easier to want to aspire to something if you have seen it. Mm-hmm. If you haven't seen it, it's possible, but it's harder, and you have to learn how to dim the noise and really be laser focused. For me, growing up, I didn't see a lot of wealthy people. The wealthy people that I knew were at a distance. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was, my parents were successful, but they carried I wouldn't call it a burden, the obligation of 2 huge extended families, because my parents were the first to go to grade school, first to go to high school, first to go to college, first to get working class jobs. And they had to bring their siblings and their siblings' children and their cousins, even till today, they had to bring them along, because that's just our culture, right? And so there wasn't really opportunity for them to go off and start stockpiling wealth when they had all these obligations. But I saw what it meant to be focused, to be intentional, and to do your best with what you could. So that, in a way, for me, was what I saw. But that aspiration to want to go next level was harder for me because I didn't see that. And so I would say that was definitely challenging. And I think today there's a lot more role models and examples for young women to aspire to, compared to when you and I were starting our businesses, even though it wasn't that long ago. Mm-hmm. I feel like money for women has never necessarily been a sexy topic. Because everything we do is supposed to be attributed to a guy.
Exactly.
And so things have changed, but there is so much more work for us to do, especially for the generation coming up behind us, especially for our kids, for our daughters. And it's just so important, such important work that we have to do.
Yeah, definitely. Get that feedback. Like, and a lot of people, even in relationships, the person that they default to is usually the male in the relationship that's supposed to be good with money, even though we know through research and statistics that women are often better with money. But there's so much stigma in society, and there's so many people, especially in the traditional personal finance space, it looks very male, that we can't be good with money unless we have this guidance. But I think we're slowly tearing that down and breaking down those walls and increasing access and normalizing it for women. And I want to talk about, so first of all, we didn't even talk about your own journey and the things that you accomplished before you started the platform and as you grew the platform. So talk about those accomplishments that you've made personally with your own finances and how that inspired a lot of the work that you're doing.
Leading up to now, let me see. I'm a first generation immigrant, right? So moving here, I think one thing I'm really proud of is figuring out how the system worked, right? Because even though I migrated here with my mom and then my dad was back and forth, my parents didn't know what they didn't know. They couldn't tell me about credit or about the 401k or how the US stock market worked. We came from a different economic structure in terms of how wealth was built. And so I think one of my proudest accomplishments was figuring that out on my own with books. It took me a while to find the personal finance blogs at the time. There weren't really much in terms of podcasts. It was mostly websites by people, not many of whom look like me, mostly white male, but it was still great information. And just figuring out by trial and error, getting burnt and crying hot tears and then trying again. So that is a big accomplishment. This is not a financial accomplishment, but I'm proud of being a mom to my kids.
You have twins, okay?
And twins are expensive, and the fact that I still have money for my twins. It's a miracle. And then there's the story that I guess my claim to fame, if I can call it that, saving $100,000 coming out of college. And that was something, I got so much shade for that story because I'm female, I think, because of the color of my skin. And that was something that I did because I was hungry. My parents sacrificed so much for me to go to college. I couldn't qualify for student loans, which if I could have, I would have gotten everything. I had partial scholarships, but it was not enough. And my parents, my mom especially, was sacrificing her retirement for me to go to school. And not just that, even with all her sacrifices, it still wasn't enough. It took me 5.5 years to complete my 4-year college degree because there was no money. And coming out of college and knowing what my parents had given up for me to attain this undergrad degree, I was hungry to just save money to show them that, you know what, this investment you made in me, this privilege you gave me was worthwhile. So I was doing all kinds of crazy stuff to save $100,000. I was the girl at work trolling all the office parties, retirement parties, baby showers, so I could have lunch and dinner and breakfast the next day at home. I was running multiple side hustles. I had my photography business. I did weddings and lifestyle and all kinds of things. I was selling Avon to my mom's friends. I had a little online store where I was selling the brides who I took pictures of for their weddings, bridal accessories. I learned about my 401k, started maxing it out. So a bunch of different things combined allowed me to save this 100K. And when you think about it, when I look back at it in retrospect, $100,000 is not a lot of money in the sense that I can't retire on $100,000. Maybe it can last me a couple of years if I'm really mindful. I live in New York, New Jersey area, not really. But it's a huge milestone in terms of being able to save money or invest money that can open the doors to so much, right? Nobody's saying, here's how to retire on $100,000. We know that's not possible unless you're doing something else, a lot else, to make it possible. So for me, that was a really big milestone. And I think the issue was that maybe I'm a woman of color. There was a woman being vocal about this milestone, but it was like, oh, she's a trust fund baby. I'm like, if I was a trust fund baby, my daddy better not leave me $100,000. Right. He better leave me something like 10 million.
People are wild.
It was like she has a rich boyfriend. Her husband is a doctor. That aside, that was a big accomplishment. And then several years later, I started my business and started sharing that story. And just like I said, when I started Clever Girl Finance, I didn't have a goal. This was not the plan. I didn't write down anywhere for it to become this, to have written 6 books. Nothing. Like, this in itself is a surprise to me. And so this is also a huge accomplishment, if I may add that. And then my book, Clever Girl Millionaire, which...
Yes, we're definitely going to talk about the books. 6 books. I wrote one and I still have PTSD, but 6 books. But first of all, Bola, you're the most humble person that I know. And I'm just like, okay, can we not talk about the fact that you have the largest personal finance platform for women? You have free courses that thousands of people have gone through on top of all the other stuff that you've accomplished. Can we just talk about that just a little bit?
Yes. You know, something that I recently went over. So we just, like you mentioned, the free courses, we just moved our course platform and we were going over just like our course takers for statistics. I don't share the stats anywhere like that. Maybe here and there on social media every now and then, but it's not something that we are tracking for any kind of clout. And I realized when we were going through the transition and moving over our course members and letting people know that we had moved to a new platform, we've had over 125,000 women take at least 5 of our courses on average. And I was like, wait a minute, what? 125,000 people. And I'm like, how?
Yeah, like where? Like, what is happening?
How is this possible? So yes, we have built one of the largest personal finance platforms for women in the US. You participated in this build by sharing your story, by supporting and sharing the community. And it's something I'm actually very proud of. Clever Girl Finance is officially, I started this in 2015 as a side hustle from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. And then officially went full-time as a proper business in 2018. So depending on how you want to count it, That's our age. But yes, I have built something I'm very proud of. And I think sometimes I tend to minimize it because I'm shy.
Let's not be shy.
But I'm proud of it. Yes.
Yes, yes. That's phenomenal. Like 125,000 women have gone through the platform. And I know you've seen some phenomenal results from that. And you continue to have and put out phenomenal education and continue to have resources that are accessible for most people. And also some amazing books. And let's talk about this journey of your books and how that started. I was in the first one.
Yes, you're in the first book. You shared your story, and people still, I redid that first book, was it last year or so? And people still ask questions about your journey.
Because they don't think it's real. They're like, that's not relatable.
No, so we now have a Clever Girl community, right? Which means that they stand for us, they are loyal, they believe it because they know it's possible. Okay, everybody else is just an outlier that wants to come and be like, I don't believe that. Come on in, let's show you how we can make this real. But yes, 6 books, technically 7 because I rewrote the first book. And honestly, after I wrote the first book, I was like, I'm never writing another book. Ever, never. And then I feel like God has a plan for me, and then I have my own plan. And every time I start putting myself in my plan, he's no, come back over here. So 6 books, the very first book, I started writing it because I'm like, oh, it'd be cool to have a book. Let me just start writing something. And then my publisher approached me and was like, oh, have you thought about writing a book? And I'm like, no. Yeah, but I started one and it became something out of that. And then every other book was just an idea that was placed upon me. And then I'm like, okay, I don't want to write this book, but you got to write the book. And then I wrote the book. And writing books is hard for me. I wouldn't say, you know how some people are like, just there are people who write. Joan Collins, for example, she just writes and writes. Is that her name? I think that's her name. And I'm like, not that person. I think I read an article that she wrote. She can go 24 hours straight writing.
Oh no, never.
And yes. So the 6 books, I think for me has been, when I think back, I'm not sure how I did it, but I did it. I remember very early mornings, waking up before my kids were up to write, staying up late after they went to bed to write, not writing for weeks or a couple of months, and then forgetting everything I wrote, and then having to spend a few days or weeks reading what I wrote so I could catch up. It was hard, but I've poured my heart into every one of my books. A lot of my books are based on all of my books actually are based on my personal experience and the experiences of other women like you, and practical strategies that have helped all of us do realistic things with our money. And it's boring. It's not sexy. What's sexy right now is overnight success and how to trade and make $25 million by tomorrow morning and crypto and all that kind of stuff. And for me, I'm like, listen, I don't know how that works, but I can tell you how slow and steady and consistent and focused and intentional works. And I can tell you it has worked for me and has worked for all these women I feature in my books. And that's what it is. So that's what the basis of my 6 books are. I've talked about foundational finance, how to budget, how to save, and even before that, your mindset, how not to feel embarrassed by mistakes you have made, because we have all made mistakes. I talk about investing. I talk about starting a side hustle. I talk about my personal journey and facing challenges in the workplace and just navigating being female and being Black and being an immigrant. I talk about all these things in my book in a way that I wish somebody had said, hey, Bola, come when I was younger. Come, let me show you all these things, right? That I may not necessarily have had.
So the last iteration or the most recent Clever Girl Millionaires.
Yes.
How does that differ from the other books that you wrote?
Because in this book, I'm talking about how I have become a millionaire. And yes. I'm talking about that journey, and I'm talking about specifically what I did and what it has taken to get there. So my other books, they're mostly foundational. Like, this is how to get started with saving and budgeting and investing and starting a side hustle. Now it's, okay, let's take it up the next level. Mm-hmm. We're saving, we're budgeting, we're doing sustainable things, but saving and budgeting is not enough to create freedom, is not enough to create the independence that you're seeking. So if you're in that space, you're like, okay, I'm now doing all the things. I'm saving, I'm budgeting, I'm starting to invest. I started a side hustle, I have a business, or I have all these ideas I'm pursuing, but I want to know how to get to that 7-figure net worth because this is something I aspire to, then this is where this book comes in. And I'm talking from the perspective of my personal journey to getting there, but not in a sense that, oh, you're going to do 1, 2, 3 things and become a millionaire. This is where I come from. Both of my parents come from backgrounds of poverty. They are first to do everything. I came from a space where I didn't see anybody who had done what it is that I have achieved. These are all the stupid mistakes I made along the way, and I was still able to do this. This is how I invest my money today. And I also talk about why it is important to know how to manage your finances, whether you're single or in a relationship, because people think that, oh, you have to be partnered with somebody to build wealth. No, you can do that on your own. I also talk about how to bounce back from the mistakes that you will make because they are inevitable. And I talk about legacy because it's not just about building wealth, right? Because at some point we're going to leave this earth, and then what happens to your money? What happens to what you have built, right? You want to create a legacy however you choose to, either for your children, for your community, or have an intention for all this money that you have built. And I really talk about this. I haven't talked about that in my other books because I think it's so important, especially as a woman of color, to have an intention for my money. And for me, it's really important to build generational wealth for my children and not just give them money, but also empower them how to use it and transition that generational wealth down the line. So that's where Clever Girl Millionaire comes in.
I love that. And let's talk about legacy because I think people have this idealization of what they think legacy is. And that might be them passing down a business or just making sure that they amass a certain amount of wealth. But there's like a large disconnect because when I openly talk about what I'm doing for my kids and like how I'm putting things in place for my kids, it's always this backlash. Like, you don't be telling your kids how much money you have because then they're not going to work hard and they're thinking they're going to be entitled and they're going to be in danger. And I'm just like, first of all, I understand where that mindset comes from because a lot of people have been victims of financial abuse and all these kind of things. However, that's not my story. And I think that being able to teach someone to be a responsible steward of money comes in sharing, not in hiding it from them and then being like, surprise, really, we're not poor. I just been saving and hoarding this $1 trillion for you. And now you just figure out how to use it. It's in the everyday practical applications about money. It has to be relatable by age or relevant by age. Like my kids are 2, 7, and 11. So we're not doing stock chart analysis and we're not doing all of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. It's about, this is how you save. This is what goes here. This is how money grows. And this is how you're an owner now of McDonald's that you want to go to every day and buy French fries. Like, it's those conversations. But I think like a lot of times that part is missing. Like, how do you raise the next generation to not only just inherit this money, but to be able to be good stewards of the money?
Yeah. I have so much to say about this topic. I feel like, listen, we get caught up, and what we often will see when it comes to generational wealth and maybe financial irresponsibility or financial abuse is what is sensational or what's trending in the news or with celebrities. And it's often the bad news. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that there are tons and tons of wealthy families you have never heard of that have been transitioning generational wealth and transition generational knowledge and their children and children's children and managing this money and continuing to create options and freedom for themselves and passing it down the line. We just don't hear about it. There is the backlash of you're creating irresponsible children by giving them all this money. Who doesn't want to be a trust fund baby?
I want to be one.
If I had the option to go through everything I've gone through, or for my parents to have gone through everything they had gone through, or for someone to be like, here is some millions of dollars, what are you going to take? Mm-hmm. I would take the millions of dollars. Who doesn't want to be a trust fund? I think sometimes people need to get past limited mindsets around money. Money doesn't make people bad. It doesn't make them irresponsible. It doesn't make them entitled. Money is simply a tool. Mm-hmm. What causes all of that is how you were raised, and what you have been empowered with. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to think about transitioning generational wealth or handing your kids over money, then you want to teach them how to be responsible with it, how to have humility around it, how to understand the value of a dollar. Anybody that you know that's entitled with money, they were entitled before they had money. They were raised to be entitled whatever they are. They were raised to be greedy and selfish and arrogant. Mm-hmm. That's just how they were raised. It has nothing to do with the money itself. Money is going to align itself with whoever you are and do whatever you tell it to do. People get upset about Nepo babies. Oh yeah, it's because her daddy's rich. It's because her mommy's rich. But if I put you in that position, would you say, you know what? No, I don't want it.
I need to work harder for this. No.
Listen, so money is the one thing. What's more important is how are we raising our children around money? How are we empowering our children around this assets we want to leave them? And as we are building our assets, how are we exposing them to normalizing that it's okay to be wealthy? It is okay to be rich. Because guess what? When you have money, see all the issues that are having around you, we have around us. People talk about social injustice. People talk about unfairness at the workplace. People talk about racism and prejudice. When you have money, it gives you options. Mm-hmm. It's not just an empty barrel making noise. You can put your dollars where you want it to have the most impact because you can. And that is how you make a difference. It's one thing to put up a social post and be like, oh, social injustice. But guess what? If you have money to back that up, you drive real impact with that. So I want to have money. I don't apologize for having money because I know what having money allows me to do, including being able to educate other people and empower them to do well with their finances, which is part of why Clever Girl Finance is a free platform, right? Not because it cannot be monetized, because I choose not to, because I know the impact I want to have with empowering women like me, knowing where I came from and what having access to these resources would do for me. So people really need to adjust their mindsets and how they think about money and generational wealth and legacy, because this is a game changer, not just for you, but for your community, for your generations, for all the things you have an issue with. Money helps you change that.
Exactly. Word. No. Word. Clock it. No.
That's a Gen A thing. Clock it. My daughter's like, clock it. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, Mom, don't do that. You're too old.
No, but I like that. And I want to talk more about that because I really feel like there's a lot of shame. And honestly, I know where it comes from. It comes from a lot of people have come from situations where their parents or they might have started out in survival mode, or being told like money is the root of all evil, or looking at rich people and saying that they're evil without understanding that there's evil people in all economic levels. Yeah. And it's just the hyper focus on people that have a little bit more than you. But I just remember this comment that somebody told me that was so out of touch. And they were just like, oh my God, it's always these ghetto Black girls that talk about money. Yes. He's like, all my rich white friends don't talk about money. And I was like, that means you don't have no rich white friends, because that's all they talk about.
Like, sure, if your rich white friends will talk about money, we need to talk about money because our community has been at a disadvantage for centuries and we need to empower ourselves with knowledge. So yes, we are going to talk about money. I've been called new money. Thank you very much. I'll take the new money because money is still money. New money, old money, whatever money. I'm good for that money. Bring it. We come from a different perspective. Like, you cannot compare our community to the community has been at an advantage with money for centuries. There's so many things that come into play here that have set us back, right? Slave trade.
Come on.
There's so many systems. And when you think about women just not being able to open a bank account on our own until 1975, I think there's another statistic that goes to, we couldn't get like a mortgage on our own until 1988. Come on, we are going to talk about money because we have to empower ourselves to succeed. I don't care about your white friends. I know.
If that's your standard, then that's on you.
Go talk to your white friends about, I don't know what, the beach and shoelaces, something. I don't know.
Yeah. And then the Nepo baby thing. Listen, I have seen, like, even on a small scale, like, other cultures will put themselves in positions where they can set up their family members in the organizations that they're in. Okay, I work at a hospital. It don't make no sense. Like, I'm working with your daughter. your brother, your
Yep.
son-in-law, and all these kind of things. And guess what? They all live in one house and they all pulling their money together and they all getting rich. Meanwhile, you sitting over there talking about what you can never do. Like, I think there's so much limiting talk in our space. And I'm just so glad that we don't stand for it. And we're just here to show you the example in real time of what's possible without all.
And it's easy for us all to do that. Listen, I can say, you know what? Both of my parents were the first to go to grade school. I'm just trying to figure out because I managed to go to college. So I can have that same mentality, right? And like you said, outside of our community, they talk about money just in different ways, right? They talk about money to their kids. They empower their kids with knowledge. That's the reason why so many people are successful and why we need to get the point where we're doing that for our kids so that it becomes normalized, where it's like, oh my God, wow, she's talking about money, because it's an abnormal thing in our community. So when I say I don't care about your white friends, it's I don't care what other people are doing. We need to focus on what we need to do to empower our family, our generation, our community, so that we too can get where we aspire to. People hate on Nepo babies. Like I said before, if you had the chance to be a Nepo baby, listen, if I could be Diana Ross's daughter right now,
that part.
If I could be Beyonce's daughter right now,
that part. Okay. They living their best lives.
Okay.
That part. Yes. I love what you're saying. Like, it's about normalizing those conversations. And so that is not the common that's not the common thread. That's not the common thought process. And again, I understand where that comes from. That comes from a lot of fear. That comes from feeling like if you mention something, it's going to get taken from you, which historically is in our communities has been a thing. But moving past that and trying to figure out ways in which you can build lasting wealth and pass that on to the next generation is what we need to move towards and not try to fight against. So yes, and thank you. And so happy that your book addresses it, because the fundamentals of finance, personal finance, have been covered on so many different levels from so many different people. And I think we're doing a better job of doing that culturally. But to get to that millionaire status, it's not a lot of people are millionaires, and not a lot of people like us are millionaires. And like what that actually looks like, what that actually takes, and what it means to keep that and pass it on for generations is something that is really missing in a lot of conversations, just because the millionaires next door don't typically look like us. It's the only millionaires we typically see are the super wealthy, the entertainers, the athletes, those kind of people. And so we don't feel like that's attainable or relevant to us. And I know so many people think like it's so hard when it's really not. So to be able to have those examples and to be able to just speak to that from your lens, but coming from where you came from and where you are now, I think is super impactful. So I'm super excited to read the book. When does it come out and how can people get it?
It's out on March 31st. You can pre-order it everywhere books are sold. There's going to be an audiobook. It's going to be available as physical book and ebook as well. And I wanted to add something to what you said just now about when people think about millionaires. I remember when I was much younger, when I thought about somebody being a millionaire, I thought about this was somebody that just had everything working perfectly in their lives. They could just go into the store and say, I want this, that, and just load up their cart and just buy whatever they want and do whatever they wanted to. And what? But I still budget. I still plan on my finances. I still know it can hurt when I go overboard. I think the biggest thing for me is having options and knowing I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. I thought millionaires just sat in their bed all day. I watched TV. I'm like, bring me the caviar and the champagne.
No.
I dropped my kids to school. I picked them up. They whine at me when dinner's not ready on time. I still clean my house. I'm still the nanny, laundry lady. teacher, dry cleaner. I'm on all the things in my house.
Well, you don't have a house manager doing all that for you now?
I know. You driver. What's your driver?
No, let me be the example too. I crossed over that 7-figure line a couple years ago, or in 2024. But it didn't really change much for me. And I've made so many mistakes along the way, not investing, going through divorce, like moving houses, all the kind of things that people tell you, like, oh, I can't do this because I've done it and I still was able to get here. And so let that just show you that even through being imperfect, it was really just like that intentionality and that focus and that just drive to keep going that got me here. It wasn't anything that was handed to me. It wasn't knowing everything. It was learning along the way. So yes, that's what it looks like. And arriving here, like magically, you don't get Jeffrey and have everything taken care of you. You just have a little bit fewer problems. I get to take the trip to Costa Rica and complain that I just spent $70 on my lunch. So that's about it.
Yeah. I started my book by saying, listen, if you're here for a miracle, some magic words that are going to turn you, some woo affirmations and some mantras that are going to make you rich by next year, this is not the book for you. This is about practical hard work. Sometimes it's going to be difficult navigating through life seasons. You are going to make mistakes. You are going to experience challenges. But if you stay focused, intentional, consistent, you can power through all these and build the net worth you desire. It's not any magic. There's so many things on social media right now that just makes you think that it's easy and by next week we're all going to be billionaires. No, they're just going to take your money.
Especially being a content creator, honey. They be like, aren't you a billionaire? Why do you still work as a nurse? That's where my money comes from.
Yeah, somebody said that to me once. I was like, well, excuse me. Why do you still work? Why do you still run your business? It was a comment on YouTube. If you have all this money, why are you still here? You claim you have all this money, but you look so tired in this video.
Like, girl, bye.
I'm tired because my kids don't sleep. Okay? That is why I'm tired.
Oh my God. Good judgment. That's me. They're like, oh, you don't see your kids. You don't spend any time with your kids. You're too busy chasing money.
They're not in your world. They're not in your world. Listen, there's that saying. There was a time this was trending on social media. Was about something. It was like you know how they have all these voices you can use to create your own video, like audio. Yes. And it was something about stop showing off that you're rich. And then the clapback was, I'd rather be, you're miserable, but you're rich. That was what it was. And then the response was, I'd rather be miserable in my mansion, in my bottle of champagne. And then you see these girls in fur coats, right, crying in their Bentley.
With the money, wiping their tears with money.
I thought that was funny. That is not us, but it's just an example of how,
people will say anything though. But anyway, what I really want to say is I am so proud of you. And it's rare that I can walk into a bookstore and not see your books. And even though I don't send them to you, every time I do, I always take pictures. Look at Bola. She's on the shelves.
That still blows my mind. My son went into the bookstore recently with someone. He's like, there's my mom's book. And he took a picture and had my husband text it to me later. And I was like, oh my God, I still cannot believe it. It just, I don't know. God is good. God is just so many things for me. Like I said, I didn't have an intention when I started this business. My mom was at work. She still works. She's a nurse. And she saw another nurse watching my video at work. And my mom said, oh, that's my daughter. And the nurse said, Emily, get out of here. Everybody's your daughter. You don't know her. My mom was like, that is my daughter. She was like, Emily, bye.
Why are you still working?
My mom was like, I'm going to call her. So she called the nurse and was like, you're not Bola Sokunbi. FaceTime me. So my mom FaceTimed me and it was so funny.
Oh my God.
It was the funniest thing ever.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful I feel like every time I want to quit, God is, no, you have work to do. And my mission is to empower women to do well, to succeed and to build wealth. And I really feel in tune and aligned with that mission because that's what I'm here to do. And so I'm just glad when I see what the impact is and I see how this platform has helped other women and will continue to help other women. And that's just really what keeps me motivated and makes me want to or compels me to keep writing books, even when I said I would never write another book after the first one.
And then, like, the honesty I love, like, I be wanting to give up every day. And so it's refreshing to hear. I am not alone.
Not just give up. I've cried tears in this business. Mm-hmm. I have cried tears. There are things that have not worked out. There are things that worked well. But people, like I said earlier on, we only see what is sensational, what's viral, what's trending. We see the highlight reel. That's what we say when on social media. We don't see like the real struggle behind building anything. And all of you who are on your journeys that are listening to this, that are working on building wealth, whether you're saving, investing, whether you're just in the early stages of paying off debt, you know what that struggle is on an everyday basis. We don't share that all the time, right? We share the success. Oh my God, look what I'm doing. I'm here, I'm there. But it takes effort, and there is nobody who is pursuing anything worthwhile that has not felt, you know what, woe is me.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me quit. None
of my us. God. I just remember, just one more side note, like one time you text me and you were just like, oh my God, my site isn't working. And all these people, you were like, that is like this many $1,000. And I was like, oh my God, it's so crazy. But yes, there are struggles. And like, I just think people need to understand, number one, that this path isn't linear. Number two, that even without the business and just the part of growing your wealth is that you're going to make mistakes. You're going to want to give up. You're going to have moments where you just don't do anything and you're paralyzed. I just want to normalize that. That's okay. That's okay. And we've all been through that.
It's part of the journey. This is what makes life, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yep.
Oh, thank you so much, Bola. I cannot wait for the book to come out. I always listen on audio because I love your voice and it's like you're talking to me and I get to hear you. Of course. And even before you go pre-order the book. I already pre-ordered it. As soon as I seen it, I was like, boop, boop, pre-ordered it. But there are the other 5 books if you want to name them. And again, I'm in the first one. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So Nasima is in. My books are all up there. So I'm going to read. So Clever Girl Finance, Ditch Debt, Save Money, and Build Your Wealth. That's the first book. That's the foundational book. If you need guidance when you're just getting started with getting your finance together, that is the book for you. And then there's Grow Your Money, Learn How Investing Works. So this is an investing focused book. I talk about how the stock market works, how to think about investing, ideas for where to put your money, how to talk with a financial advisor, planner, mistakes to avoid. Then there is book number 3, which is the Side Hustle Guide. It's all about thinking about ways to expand your income, whether with a side hustle or by building a business. And then book number 4 is my wealth plan workbook. So this is basically a workbook where you can lay out all these things you learned in those first 3 books. The 5th book is Choosing to Prosper, which is my personal journey to building my business, my journey through migrating here and just navigating through my career before transitioning into Clever Girl Finance. And then the newest book, Clever Girl Millionaire.
Yay. All right. So you have so many books to choose from. Get them all.
Yeah, they're all good.
Get them all. This is my book list for the month. Yeah. Again, thank you, Bola. Such a full circle moment again. I really appreciate you being here. So looking forward to this. So looking forward to talking to you. And I'm just so honored that you came on my little podcast.
Not little. Listen, this is a big deal for me. So thank you. I am really honored. I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate you having me, sharing me with your audience. Thank you so much. And like I said, we are forever friends. Anything you need me to do for you, anything you need me to support, and it's on record now. All of your audience has heard me say this. If you're doing something, they should ask you, where is Bola and what has she done to help you?
Thank you. And they'll hold you to it.